Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Build and Invest show. Today, we will be going over the jobs and businesses that have the best chance of surviving AI. I've been researching this for a long time, but Andre Karpathy just put out a open source project where he connected it with real live data. So now it's not just a is this going to happen? It's like, okay, what is happening? And this is why it's so important to pay attention to what everybody is talking about and what everybody's doing, because the truth is most people don't have time to pay attention to all this, right? So you look up and your job is gone, your business type is gone, and we don't want that. So here we're gonna start out by all right, I'm gonna pull up a video that goes over it. We can react to it. We can talk about it, and then we'll pull up the actual job data website and figure out if we're at risk. All right, spoiler alert: I'm at risk. But there's some interesting data here that most people probably are missing. So okay, let me share my screen and show you guys what's going on with jobs and businesses. Okay, so this video is from AI Copium, which is a good, funny YouTube name. All right, so let's look right there.
Andre Karpathy is going viral once again. This time for releasing a project where he scraped all 342 occupations in America, fed them to a large language model with a scoring rubric, and then ranked each job from 0 to 10 based on how exposed it is to AI. The result is this giant interactive tree map where the size of each box represents how many people work that job, and the color represents how likely AI is to automate it. Now, Karpathy is widely known for his time at Tesla, where he led the AI and autopilot team. And before that, he was actually a founding researcher at OpenAI. These days, though, he runs his own startup called Eureka Labs, which is trying to build a new kind of AI native school. And in his free time, he apparently drops wild AI research projects on the internet. I mean, he was just going viral last week for a project we covered in our last video, where he released a recursive self-improving AI research agent to the public. But now, he's back with something completely different. A project attempting to score every job in America based on how likely it is to be automated. And in this video, we're gonna look at what he found. Let's get into it. So I should first mention that Karpathy himself actually deleted this project less than a day after posting it. He claims he vibe coded the entire thing in about 2 hours on a Saturday morning and just thought the data might be
Think about this, and the crazy thing is now the difference between a developer like him and me or you is not that far apart. Yes, he probably knows how to use AI agents better than me or you. So he might know how to spin up more to work on the project at the same time. He might also have more access to higher level models. He might have also more money to spend on compute. But the skill difference of code is no longer a big difference.
interesting. But once it started going viral, people began treating the results like they were some kind of definitive prediction about the future of work. And so he decided to take it down. But of course, the internet works the way the internet works. And once something's on there, it never goes away. Multiple people had already forked the repo and re-uploaded the dataset, so the project kept circulating online anyway. And what's funny is that I was originally using one of the forked versions to actually make this video, because the official repo was gone. But literally right before recording, the original project suddenly started working again. So it looks like Karpathy may have quietly brought it back online. So what exactly is this thing? Well, according to Carpathy, this is basically a research visualization tool built using data from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. It maps out 342 occupations covering about 143 million jobs across the US economy, and each rectangle in the tree map represents one job. The size shows how many people work that job, and the color represents whichever metric you choose. So, for example, you can visualize things like projected job growth, where you can see which occupations are expected to grow over time, or median pay, which highlights the potentially highest earning jobs across the economy, or education requirements, showing the level of schooling typically needed for each job. But the one that really got people talking is this one: digital AI exposure. This is where Carpathy used an LLM to estimate how much AI could reshape each occupation. And some of these scores are actually pretty surprising. Let's start with some of the more obvious ones. Jobs that involve
All right.
physical.
What are you guessing? Because again, a lot of people say physical labor. Early on in the AI world, we all thought robots would take physical jobs, not the graphic designers, the mental athletes like lawyers and stuff like that. But that's not what's happening.
Work in the real world score extremely low here. So things like roofers, janitors, mechanics, construction workers, these are the ones in green, and they're mostly sitting down around 0 to 1 out of 10, meaning very low chance of being automated by digital AI. But the key word there is digital AI, because this visualizer actually doesn't take into account physical AI, at least not fully.
Not
For
yet.
example, you can see here that taxi drivers have a score of 5 out of 10. The reasoning behind this is while the core task of driving is highly susceptible to automation through autonomous vehicle technology, the job currently requires significant physical presence for tasks like loading luggages, assisting passengers with disabilities, and performing vehicle maintenance. So,
I don't think that's true, right? That's not everybody. Yeah, maybe some will still need a physical person, but not most. I already saw people who are saying they prefer not to have a driver because they don't want to have to listen to the music, whatever, smell the person's cologne or lack of cologne, have a conversation, right? Um, on Waymo's in San Francisco, people are like, I love it. I can get in a car with my pajamas, no judgment, right? So I don't know, man. That's part of like when we go through it. I'll open this up and we'll go through it and see which jobs we think.
so it's taking into account that cars will drive themselves, which is a form of physical AI, but not that will potentially have robots, likely humanoid robots, that will help with all that other stuff.
Well, for me, my car is a robot. It literally drives me. It's a aware thing that knows how to drive around cars and get me to my destination. That sounds like a robot.
And I guess it's fair because we haven't really seen that they can do that yet, certainly not at scale. But my point is, while yes, the majority of physical jobs are green, they're not taking into account robots. And that's clear from this taxi example, as well as the fact that it clearly states digital AI. So moving on, once you start getting into
So another thing about the robot thing that a lot of people don't really discuss, but if you're in the world, you know. People think robots are like robots that look like me, the whole right robot human looking thing. That's not how it's going to work out. If I'm going to create a robot for plumbing, I'm just not going to make a robot that looks like a human. I'm going to make a robot that goes into pipes, right? It's a different form factor than humanoid. So that gets lost a lot. And there's already people creating non-humanoid robots to solve tasks. That, yes, they don't cook like a cook would, like a human cook, but there's a machine that will cook for you. There's many videos that show machines cooking. They don't look like humans, but they are robots. So this is where, this is about digital, though, so we'll keep it to here. But I think if you're watching me, you're a business owner, an investor, or a person looking for a job, don't just take all this and say, okay, this is where it's going to be. I'm going to decide in the next 10 years based on this. Do more research.
into jobs that combine physical work with digital tasks, the scores start landing somewhere in the middle, unsurprisingly. Things like nurses, physicians, and retail managers are sitting around the 4 to 5 range, which basically suggests AI might assist with parts of these jobs, doing things like paperwork, diagnostics, scheduling, inventory management, etc. But the core job still requires human interaction and physical presence, both for legal reasons and for capability reasons. And if anything, a lot of these jobs are already experiencing a shortage of workers. So automating parts of their job and making them more productive doesn't necessarily mean less jobs. It could also just mean more gets done. You can also include waitresses in here, cooks, police officers, social workers.
So, okay, Travis Kalanick says this on robots. Does not have to be humanoid. Yeah, exactly. Like, people are missing that. Like, you are not going to have robots that look like us doing all these things. It's gonna be
Basically,
robots that don't look like anything. They just do the task.
any job that requires constant real world interaction with people and somewhat unpredictable environments. AI might be able to help with certain parts of the job, like scheduling, paperwork, reporting, or even decision support, but the actual work still happens out in the real world, not inside a computer. Again, it's not taking into account robots though. But once you start getting into jobs that are almost entirely digital, the scores start climbing very quickly. Things like paralegals, financial analysts, data analysts, accountants, secretaries, customer service reps are all scoring around 8 or 9 out of 10. And that's because a lot of their work revolves around reading documents, analyzing information.
So it's called KVM, keyboard, video, mouse. If you do a job where there's a keyboard, video, or a mouse, AI is going to be able to do that probably better than you. Look what I'm doing here. I have a keyboard in front of me, making video, and I'm holding a mouse. So this job may be at risk, but the truth is most people are not willing to do what I'm doing right now. Most people don't put their face on camera, speak, put it up on YouTube forever. So this one may be a little bit less, but the truth is, if you are on a computer working, this is what I do during the day: build applications, talk to customers, talk to my team, all that. I just heard it's even going to be possible for you to show up on Zoom as a version of you that has been trained on your image, video, voice, your knowledge base in like the next 6 months. So I don't know if that's true, but if that's true, think about that.
Writing summaries, or generating reports, which just so happens to be exactly the type of work that modern AI models are getting extremely good at. Basic knowledge work. This also ties in directly with the fact that software developers, and basically all jobs related to software engineering, are expected to be heavily impacted by automation. The core reasoning here is that the occupation is fundamentally digital. Writing code, debugging programs, reviewing pull requests.
So also what they say is any job that has a definite yes or no outcome. So like for code, does the code work? Does it not work? Does it do what it's supposed to do? Does it not do what it's supposed to do? So things like that a robot can do because there's a clear finish line, right? And things that there's not a real clear finish line, there won't be as many humans needed. But the way I see it, like today, I spent all day reviewing and updating Stack's new on-ramp system. So before it was hard because I had to assume that people understood a lot. But now with AI, I can create all kind of ways to help humans through the process. But there's a back and forth and there's no clear ending. I could keep working on this for 10 years before I put it out. There's no clear, okay, does a human easily understand this? No, I have to put it out there, see what comes back, change it, because the human interaction is different. I need a feedback loop. But with agents, we're working on the same thing. I have an on-ramp for humans and I have an on-ramp for agents. The agent one is instant. I can tell it, hey, do you understand this? Do you understand what to do? It can do it. It'll tell me, oh, I'm missing this, this, and that. If I don't have these 3 things, I can't do it. Okay, let's make those things. Okay, can you do it now? Okay, those things work, but this, so it's a faster feedback loop, but it all is something that can have an endpoint. So even that eventually, I can be outside of that.
Generating documentation. These are all things that happen entirely inside a computer, which means they fall directly into the environment where AI systems already operate. And then you have some of the highest scoring jobs in the entire data set, like medical transcriptionists. This tiny red box right here, which actually scores a perfect 10 out of 10. And that doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, AI speech to text systems are already extremely good at converting doctor conversations and notes directly into written records, and they can do it across any language almost instantaneously. So, this is one of those professions where AI has already largely replaced the core task. So, when you zoom out and look across the entire US economy, the average exposure score across all 342 occupations, representing about 143 million jobs, comes out to roughly 4.9 out of 10. And after everything we've discussed.
So what does that mean? Does that mean half of all jobs already have exposure? That's what I think. Look, $3.7 trillion is already exposed of the economy. That's insane.
Seems to me that a clear pattern is emerging. Jobs that exist in the physical world tend to score very low. Jobs that combine physical work with digital tasks sit somewhere in the middle. And jobs that happen almost entirely inside computers are where the exposure scores really spike. That's basically the simplest way to summarize it. So, in many ways, what's really being automated here is software. Both the creation of software and the work that happens inside software environments, which includes things like coding, document analysis, accounting, legal research, data analysis, customer support. Basically, a huge portion of what we call knowledge work today. Now, this isn't exactly a revolutionary insight. If you've been following AI recently, you know that software has been taking a huge hit because of it. Every time a major AI lab launches a new model or product, it feels like another category of software tools suddenly implodes, tanking in value. And then there's also the fact that Elon Musk is literally working on a project called MacroHard, which aims to automate everything a human can do on a computer. It's called MacroHard because the idea is that it would basically do everything Microsoft does as a company. Musk even replied to Karpathy's posting of this repo, saying that all jobs will be optional and that there will be universal high income.
So this kind of gets me because I hope he's right. I've spoken about this in past videos, but what he basically means there, just in case you've never heard this before, all jobs will be optional, he says, and there will be universal high income. What he's saying is basically the dollar's going to go down in value, right, which already happens, but it's going to go down in value faster, right? And then the cost of things are going to go down in value. So the cost of things are going to go down in value quicker than the dollar value, basically. So if you make $1,000 a week, and right now you're spending $1,000 a week, in 6 months you might be spending $700 a week, but you're still making that same $1,000 a week. And in a year you might be making $1,000 a week, or the government might be giving you $1,000 a week, but now things cost $400 a week, whatever, right? So the idea is then, if that keeps happening, the government's giving you $1,000, your cost of living is going $400, $300, $200. Now you won't have to be like, okay, I need to go out there and work. It's going to be an option for you to say, I want to make another $1,000. I'm bored. Let me start a company, try to solve cancer, whatever, right? And that's how he thinks about it. I just don't trust history and how they treat poor people or the bottom classes in this world. I don't really believe that will happen. Another big thing is how long, right? Because people like him, they can go 20 years without making money because they can borrow off their stocks. They're building companies that are worth trillions of dollars. But let's say this takes 15 years where people don't have work for 15 years or have a way to consistently make income for 15 years. I don't know many people that have 15 years of their overhead. So there's going to have to be something that comes in to play. If it's universal basic income, but they're giving you, like, let's say your bills are 10,000 a month, but they're giving you 5. What does that mean? You're still screwed because you were basing your whole life on 10,000 a month, right? And your mortgage, your car payment, everything is based on how much you were making. Most people sign up for 30-year mortgages, 8-year car leases, now 10-year car leases because they're like, oh, I make X amount, so I can pay this amount. But if you can't make that amount for 30 years or 10 years, what happens? And we're already seeing a lot of foreclosures and car delinquencies, right? So I don't know what's going to happen. I think the government is going to have to step in pretty soon. And you remember during COVID, right? During COVID, they gave unemployment out in an easier way. Like you didn't have to go through as many hoops to get unemployment. But even then, unemployment wasn't that much money. You can live off unemployment. If you're just making unemployment, you're still starving. Like, I don't know. I don't know. So I don't know how this is going to work. And I think, and even investing, to me, to be honest, I made an investing app, but I know most people can't invest because they need to spend all the dollars they make. So, okay, let's see what Lopez R says. People with money contribute to Invest American accounts to their local community. In return, they get status. Oh, I've seen this on Moonshots, right? Where basically the people with money, they basically invest in things in their community, right? So one guy, actually Michael Dell from Dell Computers, he's worth billions of dollars. So he basically did something where he gives, I forget, a certain amount of millions a year to local things for kids, something like that. So that's what Lopez was saying. He got cut off, but he gets status for that, right? So now it's like when they put up a wing in a college for the donor, right? So it's like, oh, that's the Sanchez wing because the Sanchez family just donated $1 million, right? Like that idea. So now you get clout for giving away your money, but that doesn't mean that it's still fair. Still means just everybody's broke. You just got money to give away, you know? So I don't know. I really hope he's right. I just don't trust people from that background of wealth. And think about it, where he's from. South Africa, right? Where apartheid. He grew up in apartheid. He was cool with slavery. I don't know, man.
Optional, and that there will be universal high income. So yeah, for some of you, this might be a wake-up call or an eye-opener to what could be coming. And for others, it's probably not that surprising at all. Maybe even a conservative estimate. Because remember, this visualization mostly looks at digital AI. It doesn't really take into account embodied AI, things like robots, beyond things like autonomous driving. And in my opinion, humanoid robots could eventually have an even bigger impact on labor than digital AI. It might take longer, but if AI-powered robots eventually become capable of building anything humans can build, including more robots, then you basically end up with something like an infinite labor glitch. And if that happens, the question is no longer which jobs get automated, it's what do we do? Like, seriously, what do we even do anymore in an economy built around human labor when labor itself is no longer scarce? I mean,
I think I've been thinking about this for years, probably over a decade now. And I think what it becomes is we decide what problems we want to solve that now we can't probably even imagine, because if AI and robotics solve all of our current problems, there's new ones, right? So there's ones like, what is the meaning of life? What is the universe? What are the beetles thinking? The whales thinking? The dogs, the cats, right? You know, there's all kind of different things that, okay, we can't think of this right now, but there are already people using AI to try to synthesize language of animals, right? That's a problem nobody who has to figure out how to eat every day has time to think about. But if you got money coming in that you don't need to worry about any of your overhead, yes, you may not live like a king, but your bottom is covered. Everything that you need to live is good. Now you can say, all right, what do I want? What do I want to do? I want to explore space. Okay, I guess I got to make a spaceship. I know it sounds crazy, but you're going to have robots for a dollar an hour. You're going to have unlimited intelligence. So it's like having SpaceX. Like, you can literally create your own version of SpaceX. Instead of hiring 10,000 PhDs, you just spin them up in the cloud and have them all work on building your spaceship and taking you to space. This is what, again, I hope this is what happens. I really don't think it will in my lifetime. I really hope it does, but I don't know. I researched this so many times, and there's this thing called the Luddite fallacy. Have you ever heard of this? Where everybody always says, yes, in every time in history, better jobs came along, more jobs came along. What they don't tell you is how long that took. And it took, on average, 60 to 80 years before these people got new jobs. So, can you wait 60 to 80 years? I can't, right? So, what does that mean for us? I don't know. But again, one of the things they say is to take advantage of this, you have to be in it, right? That's the only way. If you're not paying attention and you're not dealing with it, you're just waiting for the tsunami to hit you. If you're in it, working in it, using it, you could at least navigate longer than most, right? Because if you know how to use it, you're using it, and 99% of people are not, you will get more than they are, and it's sad, but the truth is you don't have to be the fastest gazelle. You just have to be faster than the slowest gazelle before the lion eats that one. And the truth is, I think that's what's happening. I do think part of the ramp up of entertainment, social media, doom scrolling, mindless scrolling, Netflix. This is the worst time in history to not be paying attention and trying to learn. If you're like coming home and watching Netflix because you're tired, I get it. But motivate yourself to start playing with this stuff, because it's getting ridiculously good. And I worried about even my own. I feel like I'm in the top percentage of people that can use it. And I'm still worried about my own job. And by mean job, I'm an entrepreneur. But what does that mean? I sell products to other business owners, other people. But as a business owner, I need customers. So if people don't have money, how do I make money? If businesses don't need what we do because they could create it themselves, how do I make money? So nobody is safe. I don't know if you're not a little bit anxious right now, I would love to understand how you do that. But as a person that uses this every day, I am scared. All right, agreed. Do you think people in the know are telling truth so civilization does not panic? Are they moving their money? So it got cut off, but I think the truth is they're not saying the truth. They're kind of telling you in a way to not scare you, which means they're saying it in certain publications. You'll see it on social media, but you don't really, it takes a lot to pay attention to this stuff. And even us, people like me that are watching it every day, even it's hard for me to keep up. And it's almost impossible to keep up anymore. So how I do it is I stay within certain areas that I pay attention to. What are the business lines I'm interested in, which is finance, media, technology. And because I did this research before Karpathy put this out, I'm looking at what trades do I want to either service as a business owner or own, right? So you've heard me, maybe if you've been on this channel, you heard me talk about electricians. I'm figuring out how to work with electricians, and I'm going to figure out if I could create businesses around them, because they are one of the businesses that look like they are going to thrive going forward. Also, what is it going to take to own one? Because there's a lot of people retiring. There's a lot of business owners retiring, and the kids don't want the businesses. So there's this whole movement of You can buy businesses off business owners that are going to retire. And a lot of them are those type of businesses, the trades. So that's an opportunity that I think everybody needs to pay attention to, and I am. So let's see it then.
Completely shift the game in a way we've never really seen before. And what emerges out of that? Will it be good? Will it be dystopian? Will we even make it long enough to see it? Those are the kinds of questions we should probably be thinking about and trying to visualize right now. But anyways, that's all for today's.
All right, so let's bring up the Karpathy project ourselves and see what we think. Well, I'll tell you what I think. You can tell me what you think. Oh, what happened there?
Accessibility shortcut.
I don't even know what happened there. I don't even know what I pressed there. It's Karpathy Jobs, right? Yeah, Karpathy. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so this is it. Go to karpathy.ai/jobs. So BLS Outlook, I don't remember what that means, but this is the one, digital exposure. 4.9 average. Crazy. All right, so what you do end up seeing though, this is something I noticed. Look at the ones that are safest. The jobs that are safest are the ones with the lowest pay. So sub 35K jobs are safe. Above 100K jobs are most at risk. Again, what does that mean? Most people, the middle class, are the 100K up earners. Middle class is at risk. Look, 75 to 100, 6. 100 up, 6.7. 35K, 3.4. 35 to 50, 4.4. 50 to 75, 5.0. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Yeah, can you see that? Yeah. So that's scary too. High school, people doing jobs that are high school diploma only needs. Lowest at risk. Post-secondary, 4.7. That's a associate's degree. That's what I have. Bachelor, 6.7. Higher than master's and doctorate. So now let's go job by job. Business by business. Because that's how I'm thinking about it. Not just the job. Also, what type of businesses are you targeting as your business or you're trying to create? Right? So home health, personal care aides, 2 out of 10. But again, the median pay is 35K. What does that mean? Yeah, all right, we all can get 35K jobs if AI goes away, but what if your whole life is based on making 100 plus K? How's that going to work? I don't know. This is where things got to go down. I heard this AI guy today say, and again, not financial advice. I don't know if he's right about this. I'm going to research this today. Not today. I just heard it today. He said it might be a good idea to take out as much debt as possible because the debt is going to have to basically be wiped. Because as things go down in value, imagine a bank that has a loan on you for $1 million for a house that now is worth $250,000. Are you going to pay that $1 million? You're going to say, F that, I'm out. I'm not paying that. I'll go to another house. Yeah, my credit is messed up, but I'm not going to pay $1 million for a house that's worth $250,000. And that's what everybody's kind of think is going to happen. And I can see that happening. Why? Why did that house cost $1 million? Because of inflation, right? It wasn't because when it was first made, it was worth $100,000 and then it became worth $1 million in 50 years because it magically became a mansion. No, it was because the dollar value kept going down. And now you came in and you bought it. That person sold it to you, probably let's say for 500 or 600,000 when they bought it for 100 20, 30 years ago. Now you just bought it for $1 million, but you put down 200,000. Now you owe 800,000 for the next 30 years. You're really going to pay $2 million for that house with interest all in. You're going to walk away. People are going to walk away from this. And houses are going to become easier to make. Think about it. You can have a robot make the house. It's not going to be as expensive to build houses. land may be more expensive, but the building of the house won't be as expensive. So I don't know. We'll see. So home health aide, okay. I don't know if I would want that job. 35K, that's a hard job. That means you're taking care of old people that are sick. Nursing assistant and orderlies, same thing. I don't know if I want that job. 40K. But the difference with these is they get a lot of overtime. So maybe that's the base, but their overtime is a lot more. Physicians, 5 out of 10. Surgeons. Of course, if you watch, Elon Musk said in the next 3 years, minimum 5 years, maximum 5 years, there'll be more AI robots that could do perfect surgery than humans. You will be probably at risk having surgery from a human versus a robot. So this is what the smartest people in the world, not only him has said that, I've heard this multiple times. Medical assistant, 44K. Not high paying jobs. I wish you could say what's the highest paying job. Oh, this is a high one. Registered nurses, 93K. 4 out of 10. Still, what I think when you see the 4 out of 10 numbers, stuff like that, it doesn't mean that they get replaced. It just means they need a lot less of them. So right now, I believe there's a limit of how many nurses and doctors per year can come out. Because again, you can't have more than you need. So there's a cost to doing all that, to educating them, to you taking the loans out. Right? So imagine taking out a loan. I was just having this conversation with my son. One of his friends might want to become a doctor. But they're in high school right now. So he's in high school. He got this year, next year. Then you got to go to college. Then you got to go to go for a doctor. And then you got to do your residency. That kid might not be a doctor for 10 more years, maybe more. What does the landscape look like in that much time? You owe $500,000 and you can't work. Maybe the debt means nothing. You owe 500K, but they're giving you 100K a year and you don't have any money to spend it on. I don't know. This is all like mentally mind-bending stuff. I'm just trying to position myself. I'm positioning anybody who watches me. Thank you for watching. Whenever you're watching, like, subscribe, put on your notifications. I'm trying to prepare myself, my kids, my family, anybody watching for whatever happens. So either way, we're good. So what I think we need to be doing, what I'm doing, I'm using this technology every day, all day, every day. But I am also saying what happens if this goes away. I'm not just going to think, okay, I'm being the top 1% of AI users, so I'll be good. I'm not thinking like that. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be one of the top 1%, but also what else do I have to do just in case? And yeah, that's a lot of work, but it's better than being reliant on UBI, which good luck with that. I just don't even, I can't imagine they do that for long. Think about when they did it with COVID. They dropped money in all of our accounts. I guess if you were making a certain amount, they gave you more or less. I forget how it worked, but it wasn't that much. I don't remember getting that much, and it was for like months. So it's like a couple $1,000 supposed to last you 6 months. And remember, we were locked down for years. Really, if you think about it, what saved me was my job was done remotely. So I was still able to get customers. I was going live. I was getting customers from the live. I have already clients that I worked with that I never was in front of them anyway. So my business was built for that. But what if your business wasn't? You were, an Uber driver. Those people had to go out there and risk their lives when nobody knew what it was like, right? If you were an essential worker, right? People that had to go into work, those people had to go risk their lives or they were going to be broke, right? So how does that look over 15 years? Like, that's freaking scary, man. All right, I don't want to scare more. Let's look and try to find the sweet spots. Food and beverage, 3 out of 10, still 30,000. Retail sales, 30,000. So far, registered nurse has the highest, 95K, but it's still a 4 out of 10. I want to see dark green and see which ones make a lot of money. So construction labor, this is my dad. My dad was a union carpenter. 1 out of 10. He always was telling me, hey, carpenters is different. All right, carpenters make a little bit more. 2 out of 10. How does that make sense? Okay. But my dad had a lot of overtime, right? It was a lot of overtime, probably because he was part of a union, which again, unions are, they're going after unions. So if there's no unions, are they going to make that much? I don't know. Okay, electricians. This is the one I told you. So, okay, electrician is decent. It's not as high as carpenter. Actually, it's more. It's more than carpenter. 2 out of 10, just like carpenter. Like plumbers. Let's see, plumbers. 62, 2 out of 10. So, plumber and electrician. So, this is the research I did, and I did it months ago. It was between HVAC, plumbers, and electricians. I just thought electricians make the most sense because I have an electric car now. I see that growing over time. Robots, they're going to need to be charged. Data centers, they need electricity. Data centers don't need a lot of plumbing, but they need a lot of electricity work, right? Robots don't need plumbing. They need electricity, right? So I said, I think electrician is better, but HVAC is decent too because the everybody needs cooling, right? So the data centers needs cooling. Humans do need cooling, and heating. I just think electrician for me makes the most sense. I think they have one of the safest spots right now. General maintainer, I don't know what maintenance. Oh, general maintenance and repair workers. So this, I think, like occupation involves physical labor, manual dexterity, real-time problem solving. Maybe this means it don't really say what it is. Work of repairing building machinery. All right, so maybe that means like working on the robots. I don't know, but they all say that the robots are going to build the robots. So, okay, I'm trying to find the darkest green with the highest amount. So, 2 out of 10, hand labor, material movers. I don't know what that means. Janitor, 1 out of 10, 35K though. And this, again, if you're in a union, these numbers are very different. But if they kill unions, child care workers, 32,000. Where's the darkest green? I'm trying to find the darkest green. 110, 50 roofers. Okay. But again, I just saw a roof get built. It wasn't, truthfully, it wasn't Americans doing it. They had a bunch of immigrants probably paying them nothing. To be honest, let's be honest with what's happening. You're not going to get a roofer job above an immigrant. Just like farm workers, right? Like nobody wants to do those jobs. They're dangerous. Roofing is a dangerous job, right? And how you compete with an immigrant that's making like $100 a day, $200 a day? You can't. So 50K, I wonder if that really is the business owner. I don't know. Maybe there's one person that has to manage the immigrants. I don't know. And again, I mean, it is what it is. But the truth is, you got to really understand what's going on. Iron worker, 62,000. Glaziers, what the hell is that? Work of a glazier is highly physical. I don't even know what that is. Cutting, securing of glass, or welder. So this was something that I saw a lot of kids going for welding. The problem with welding is it kills your eyesight. So if you're a welder for a certain amount of time, you're looking at the bright light. Your eyes get messed up. So a long time ago, I was working on augmented reality and I saw a company that would train, because while you're training to be a welder, you're killing your eyes already, but you have to train for a certain amount of time. So they made this virtual a VR thing where you could train to be a welder without killing your eyes. But again, that's technology, and again, less and less people are going to be needed for stuff like that. Okay, so I'm going to try to go back to the regular size to see if I can see any dark greens. Red medical record. Medical records. See, the truth is the high-paying ones are all red. That's so crazy. Preschool teachers, 37. Career technical education teachers, 62. 67. 42. 37. 46. Everything green is low. 65. I think what's going to happen is like people are going to have to be able to live off these numbers. Problem is, right now, it's very hard to live off these numbers. Unless you don't live in New York City or a big city, it's very hard to live off $48,000 a year, $35,000 a year. How could you live in New York City and get paid $35,000? That's like $3,000 a month, less than $3,000 a month. Rent here is more than that, right? So like, how could you do that? 33,000. So this is where, okay, so now let's look at it from a business lens. Where do you see the opportunities? Like I said, electricians from my research was a big one. Plumbers, painter, decent. Okay, painter. But again, I don't think that's true, and I don't think they're going to hire American laborers. So that's another problem with the low-end ones. The low-end ones also have to compete with immigrants, right? Immigrants that come in that are willing to do the job for cheaper, a lot of times work harder, don't complain, right? So now imagine if you have to compete with that. Most people are not going to want to do that. Not to be political, I don't care. I'm Hispanic. People do whatever they got to do to survive. I'm not going to complain about it. But that's going to happen to all of us. So this is where, like, I think a lot of the people that complain about how people are like not working as hard, when people are not making enough to cover their bills and stuff, they're like, oh, they're leeching off the government. Truthfully, that's going to be everybody. Like, think about it. Like, eventually, if all these jobs start, let's say they don't go away, but they need half of the people they already use now. That's a lot of people. Look at how many people. 143 million jobs. America, I think, is 350 million people. That's 1/3 of all the jobs, of all the people. Let me see. Let me make sure. How many people are in America, counting immigrants? $335 million people, and 140 is at risk. It's a lot. It's almost half, right? And I think it's higher, personally. Again, because I'm in the venture capital space too, so what I get to see that most people don't get to see is all the companies raising money to solve problems. So if you look at this, retail sales workers, how many people go shop in retail stores? Very much down from a lot of people just order on Amazon. It gets here today, depending on where you live. So that's going down. But they are starting to create digital things, right? Kiosk, things like that, right? So, okay, food and beverage. I could show you videos of things cooking in your house that are robots. They're not physical humanoid, but they cook in your house. Cooks, waiters and waitresses. There's already restaurants with no human waiters or waitresses. Food preparer. I just told you about robots that do that. Bartender. I saw a robot that does that. That has like a whole machine. It goes and pushes the drink to you, right? So, not to say it's ready today, but companies are raising trillions of dollars to do each one of these things as robots. What you say, Lopez? Let's see. 162 million people employed as of February 26. So, and 143 million of them are at risk. That's insane. I don't know. That's insane. Okay, so, and half of them, their job is really high exposed. Halfway. Okay, so, and again, the highest earners are at the highest risk. So why does that matter, right? If you think about it, it comes back to what I said before about not trusting how things are going to end up. Throughout history, you got to study history, especially innovation throughout history. So let's start out with how it all worked. The richest people in the world, they had servants, indentured servants, slaves, right? Eventually, those slaves became employees. Let's be honest, right? Like, okay, you're right. We don't have to whip you anymore, but if you don't come to work, you don't eat. Okay, so now we're the bottom class is really taking care of the top classes. So now they've never really cared about the bottom classes. If they just need less of them, they need less of them. And that's what I think is really happening. They're just not going to tell you that. They're not going to say, hey, throughout history, we really didn't care about you guys anyway. You guys grew to a number that we maintained because we needed workers. But now that we don't, let's figure out what happens. Hunger Games time. And I don't know if you can tell me different. Has there ever been a time in history where most people were taken care of? No. And guess what? Guess what is part of this? Wars. So part of it is once society reaches a certain level, they create wars to guess what happens during wars. It's not the rich people's kids that go to war. It's the poor people that go to war. And guess who gets killed? Not the rich people's kids. They're already saying Barron Trump is not going to be in the draft. But your kids are. Even if you didn't vote for him. If this happens and we go to war with, they're saying the ground troops in Iran is going to be crazy. Like, way worse than Afghanistan. They've been planning for this war for 30 years. They've known we were going to go to war with them forever. We've been saying it forever. Israel and America has been saying it forever. They're prepared for this. And they have terrain and all kind of advantages. So what does that mean? I saw something that estimated for America to really take Iran through the ground, it would need like 80 million soldiers or some crazy number like that. Think about that. That means a draft. And there's all kind of things showing that they're already starting to have paperwork for you to make sure your kid is in the draft. I saw something the other day that said they sent letters home to Florida residents that was confusing on, it was something like, and I'll try to find it, but I probably can't find it right now, but it said, if you want your kid not to be in the draft, you got to sign here, put their name, birthday, and social security number, and hand it into the school. And the woman was like, why would I give you all that information for my son not to be in the draft? And it was basically a trick for you to give the information so your kid could be in the draft. That's at least what that thing was. But I've seen there's already been laws being passed about drafts. Why do you think they're doing that? You know, and another thing is when your kid goes to college. I remember when I went to college, when you sign any financial aid stuff, you are signing up for the draft by getting financial aid. So, and again, the draft is not just 20-year-olds. The draft, I think, stops at 40 plus or something like that. So you get drafted all the way in your 30s to go to war. Crazy times. And again, guess who goes? Not the rich people. It's the poor people or the lower and middle class. So why I keep bringing all this up is not doomer. It's, okay, plan. Let's start planning. What's the options? Get good at AI. Start learning how to use it. 2, invest. Try to figure out how to invest. And I know it's hard. It's hard if you don't have a lot of extra cash, but you got to treat it like a necessity. Even if it's $20 a month, something is better than nothing because most people have no investments at all. And what happens in this world where AI does most of the work, I think investments go up a lot because what else is there? The companies that are doing all this work and making all this money, their stock value is going to go up faster than the dollar value goes down in value and loan interest goes up in value. So the idea is own assets, and not every asset is made equally, right? You can own real estate, but what we spoke about with real estate values can go down. So can Bitcoin, so can stock, S&P 500. What's another thing I just heard about this? Think about this. If we go to war with China, which is what this whole thing is leading up to. Basically, Venezuela was one step in starving China away from oil. So China dealt with Venezuela for oil, so America took them off the table. Now we're going after Iran because Iran is another part of the puzzle of where China gets its oil from. So now, if we take Iran off the table and Venezuela off the table, China is backed into a corner because now they see, all right, you guys are effing with us. They know it. We're just not publicly saying it, but the people who know this, war stuff, they're the ones saying we are basically setting up to either go at China or take them down a peg because they're looking like they're going to surpass us. So in that world, and again, if you research the how in history the dollar switches in the dominant country has the best currency, right? So if America loses to China as the dominant economy in the world, then it would affect American dollars, American jobs, American stock market. So there's people already saying, I don't want to invest in the American stock market because we're at all-time highs. Based on everything we're doing around the world, we're probably going to start falling. There's even been studies from like the top funds and hedge funds and financial firms saying that over the next 10 years, you cannot expect the same level of return from the S&P 500. Have you ever listened to Simon Dixon? Have you ever listened to Simon Dixon? He says, we're heading to a bipolarized world. U.S. controls the Western world. China controls the East. Yeah, and that's partly why I think we're in Iran right now. Not just because of Israel. I think we're in Iran because we're trying to slow them down. So first, we took out Venezuela. Now if we at least slow down Iran, then they slow down their growth because they've been growing at a pace that we are not growing. They have more GDP growth, all this stuff. But again, with China, they could just make up numbers. Nobody knows. There's many people that believe China doesn't really even have the population it says. You could look that up. A lot of people say China's lying about their population by like half. So like they say, oh, China has 1.3 billion people. They're like, no, they don't. There's no way because for that to happen, each person would have had to have 4 kids or something like that. And there was a one-child policy, right? So there's no way that they got to those numbers. Again, nobody knows. We'll never really know. But what I think part of why I create content and I'm talking like this is just to get you thinking and creating your own idea of what you think is happening. And then creating your own plan. Create a little bit more anxiety if you don't have it. So you can start moving because humans don't move unless they have to. We're comfortable creatures. We get comfortable. We just live comfortable. And right now, they're really making us comfortable in the worst possible time to be comfortable, in my opinion. So as a business owner, I'm going to be looking at this chart, going after those businesses that I believe. But again, it's going to get crowded eventually. I'm not the only one thinking like this. They're going to be looking at these charts too and saying, okay, who has all the money? Which companies have all the money? So if you're a business owner, you're either B2B or B2C or B2G. Business to business, business to consumer, or business to government. So if you sell to the government, what are you selling to the government that they want to continue to pay for? And that's a whole world too because the government over time lowers your profit margin. That's not a great place to make money from. Then B2C, most people ain't going to have any money. So what are you going to sell them? People don't even want to pay for Netflix, $15 a month. They're not going to pay for whatever you're selling if they don't have money. Then you got B2B. What businesses are going to be thriving that can afford to pay you as a business owner? You have to think like this. But then you also have to think about investments. Think about things like Duolingo. Their stock has tanked. Why? It was an app to translate, to learn languages. But now you could do that in ChatGPT, Claude, and you're already paying for it. So now why would I pay for that? And Duolingo, unless you do have an affinity for the brand, which that brings up a whole nother thing and why I'm streaming. Part of why I'm streaming is to slowly build up a personal brand. because I think that is going to be one of the last moats, right? Like, people buy from people they like and they trust. How do you create trust in a digital world? A lot of people never met me. But if you spend time online with me and see how I think, see what I'm doing, you might start to like and trust me more. Or if we meet in person, but again, you can't meet a million people in person. So you got to put stuff online to get that likability and trust. So I think every business owner, and I did see something about the every business owner is going to need an internal influencer. What does that mean? If you're a business owner and you're the CEO, it's either you or somebody on your team has to create content for your business. Why? Because what I just said. How do you compete with another company that can build the same exact thing as you? If one of you is creating content and those people are seeing you and spending time with you, you're more likely to win the business than the cold business that has no people. That they think, all right, there's a whole AI company there. I'm not going to deal with them. I'm going to deal with the person I watch on YouTube once a month. That's going to be a differentiator. So this is all part of the puzzle. So this is why I say I'm doing everything I possibly can to take advantage of these times. What can you do? First of all, use ChatGPT every day, Claude every day, but not as a search engine. Use it as a thought partner. So when I told you I've been doing research on this for months, I've been asking ChatGPT since it came out. All right, what do you think is going to happen in the next few years? Okay, so this is what made me build Stack, right? Because I realized people are going to need to invest, but they're not going to have a lot of money to invest. So they're going to have to buy assets, borrow off those assets to live, but at least they'll have assets versus spending money and having no assets. So I built Stack. What it didn't tell me is how fast this was hitting, because people thought this was going to take a lot longer. People thought we would be here a long time from now. So it's going faster. So now most people don't have money to invest at all. You don't have a job. So this is what's happening. If your current lifestyle is here, you lose your job, you get unemployment, but they don't pay you the same amount that you were making in your job. So you actually have less. So people are living off credit cards, right? So you're at a deficit. There's no way to invest. So now what does that mean? For most people, they're not even going to be able to invest. So I've been figuring out other ways. One idea I had, and I've spoken about this multiple times, I'm going to keep talking about it, is we all pay our cell phones. I figured out a way to pay your cell phone and invest. I'm going to put up a website. I'm going to do it this week. If you're interested in doing that, reach out, because you can invest every month. You pay your cell phone and still get top quality service. So that's one thing. I'm trying to figure out what are things people are going to pay for no matter what, no matter the class level. And if those people can also invest when they pay those things, they can be better off than most other people, right? Because the truth is, if you're paying your cell phone and not investing, and I'm paying my cell phone and am investing, I'm in a better spot, right? So that's how I'm looking at it. And I'm talking to AI every day, asking, what else can I do like that? What are other things I can get bulk discounts, give to customers, and still make them pay the same amount they were paying, but now that difference, they get to invest. And it keeps giving me ideas, but the truth is there's not many. There's not many, and the phone is the best one. That's why I'm starting there. Of course, I am thinking about business owners too. So if you're a business owner, you are paying for things like your website hosting, your compute to run your AIs. There's a lot of things we have to pay for to keep our businesses up and running. So if I could figure out how to get bulk discounts on those things and people can invest, that's another thing. That's another one of my plans. I don't know what you can do, but again, I'm actually starting to put time in my calendar for people if they want to spend one-on-one time with me and have conversations that I can help you maybe think through some of what you're doing. I'm in my venture capital world. I may have spoken about this, but on Monday we had a meeting, and one of the ideas, and this might be a good thing to understand as well, this is why entrepreneurship might be the business of the future. The job of the future. So what they're thinking about doing now is, and we're going to start testing it with 100K checks. So the way it works is you come up with a great business idea, probably in one of these areas here, right? And you say, I just need money to start this because I need to hire people, spend money on advertising, whatever. So that's where you go to investors. Investors give you money and they own part of your company, right? So the way venture capital works is you put money, they give you money, they take a large chunk of your business. Private equity, they take an even larger chunk. Angel investors, they take a smaller chunk. So what we are trying to figure out as a venture capital firm is how to do what's called redeemable equity. Meaning, if you put money in, you don't have to leave that equity with the investor. You can buy that equity back from the investor at a premium, but it's still less than that investor keeping that equity. So I'll give you the math of how that works. So let's say you have an amazing idea today. Venture capitalist says, look, I'll give you $2 million at a $10 million valuation. What that means is they believe your business is worth $10 million. They're giving you $2 million right now. They're taking 20% of your business though, right? So if that's the last money you ever raise, they own 20% of it. So let's say you end up selling your business for, it goes amazing. You sell your business for $100 million, right? Amazing. 10x, not even great for venture capital. They want more than 10x, but let's say 10x. I don't even think a venture capitalist will let you sell for $100 million basically, but let's say they do. That means the venture capitalist gets $20 million from that $100 million sell, right? They put $2 million, they made $20 million. But this redeemable equity, while you're growing and knowing you're getting to the point where you might want to sell, you can come back to the investors and say, look, I'll give you $8 million back. I know you lent me 2. I'm giving you 8. That's a 4x. That's better than giving them 20. So they're looking at that because, again, now as a venture capital space, you don't need as much money to do things anymore. So they got to get competitive on what they do, so you want to take their money. Because, again, if I told you, hey, I'm going to give you $2 million and you're going to owe me 20 if you sell out $100 million, but I really need you to sell out $1 billion. So you're really going to give me $200 million back for my $2 million. Or you can give me $10 million. And everybody's happy. If a business could run like that, both sides win, right? Because if the reason the venture capitalists do that model is because they raise so much money that, and they know most of the companies are going to go out of business. So if you take a venture capital firm, normal venture capital firm, they raise $100 million to invest. And they're writing $2 million checks. This is not really how it works, but let's say they are. That means they got 50 companies they can invest in with $2 million. And not even, because their fees come out of that. So it's a whole thing. But I'm just make the math easy so you can understand. 50 companies at $2 million. That means if one of those companies has to come back with the $200 million so they get their investors back their money and then some. And they make money, right? So they have to invest in companies that have a high likelihood of becoming billion-dollar companies. But companies that look like they're going to become billion-dollar companies are very risky companies. They can either be a billion-dollar company or go out of business. And you're seeing right now, I'm seeing this a lot right now, companies that raised money a few years ago, especially in the crypto space, they're starting to go out of business because they're not growing as fast to get to the venture capital exits that they need to. So they got to shut down. So what does that mean? If I'm a venture capital company, I invested in 50 companies, I need at least one of them to bring me back 200 million so I double my fund. But that's not a good fund. You need to 3x. So if I took 100 million, the goal is I got to give my investors back 300 million. So I need a 3x on all the money I raised. So now I need more than one of these to win. I need at least 2 to get to $200 million exits. So that's how that business model works. But if you don't raise as much and you don't need to invest in as many companies, you can get 4 or 5 X's and still be good. the investors are still getting the 3x and above that they want. It's just not as risky. So that's where I think venture capital is going, and I'm luckily in front row seat to see the different ideas. So I'll bring those to you too. So right now, if you are a startup looking for something like that, they're starting with 100K checks. Right now, what they said in this was the first meeting we spoke about it. Is gonna be, so the return will probably be like 250 to 300K. The way it will work is first 3 years you don't gotta pay anything back. After that, you start paying 3% on the money you borrowed. So if it's 100K, you pay 3%, I believe, every quarter. Again, I'll get the exacts. If you're interested, reach out. But it's interesting because in that world, rich people give people money, venture capitalists, to invest in companies. So this is why I say this is probably the job of the future. You come up with a good idea, you get an investor to give you the money, that's your salary, right? And then if the business works, you grow. If it doesn't, you got to do it again. And this is where like venture capital investors and founders, they continuously do it. They fail, try again, fail, try again, fail, try again. And I believe this is what's going to end up happening. Most people are going to end up being founders. They're going to look for problems to solve. They're going to hope to find investors that are willing to give them money. I believe, though, this is where we all need to learn. I believe the best case scenario is the consumer is the investor. So what my plan is with the phone company is I don't want to raise money from investors. I want to raise money from the users of the phone service. So if the users of the phone service are the investors, they are the beneficiary of everything the company does. Because from being in the inside, I know this well. If you raise money from an investor, they are the top of the food chain. Everything is done to benefit them. Everything. So if ahead of the founders, they go ahead of the founders. So like I said, let's say you sell the business. Let's say you didn't sell the business for 100 million. Let's say you sold it for 50. You still owe them. And they get paid before the founders. There's been cases where the founders didn't make any money, but the investors did. They work a business for 10 years, sell it, and the investors make the money. The founders don't make any money. So if we reverse this and make it where the investors are the customers, then we have a position where the founder is aligned. Because if we have investor, founder, customer. If we flip that and it's customer, founder, then now it's aligned. I only have to cater to one group, the customer. So I think that's what has to happen. Again, I've never really heard people talk about this. Equity crowdfunding is an idea around it, but it's not that popular. But I think that's what we got to do. We all have to get financially literate enough to vet ideas, fund them, but fund things that we're going to use. Like a cell phone. You're going to pay a cell phone bill every month for the rest of your life. You might as well own the company that you pay. And yes, you can own Verizon stock, T-Mobile stock. But the truth is those companies are worth billions of dollars now. A new company just being made is going to be worth a lot less. So as it grows, you make more on that investment. That's the idea. I'm trying to think of as many of those as I can. If you have ideas, please reach out, because my goal is I'm going to start just putting out ideas and seeing where the traction comes. And then I could build anything. I can get funding for things. But again, I'd rather the investment come from the community, not from just the rich getting richer. I mean, I work in that world, so I see it. The only way to change it is if you, as a person that's not in the top 10%, invest in something that gives you the chance to get there. Because there's nobody going to be able to work enough to get there. There's only few ways to move classes like that. You either create one of these businesses, own it, and sell it. That's what they do. They'll create a business, like I told you. So if I was to do that, I created a business, I sold it for $100 million. Again, if I was the only founder, which again, you got to divide that up with a bunch of people. But let's say I made $80 million. I paid my investors 20. After taxes, I got $40 million. Now I'm in the top 10%, right? But not everybody could do that. Not everybody's going to be able to do that. So, and that's such a rare thing. It's like hitting the lotto as a business owner. So you can't bank on that. What you can bank on is things you use every month. Things that are essential to your life and you're going to pay for no matter what. So that's where a lot of my thinking comes from. My thinking comes from you have to invest or you're screwed. And we got to figure out what are the things we pay for every month that we could also invest by paying them. So that's my mission. I'm going to keep working on that. Thank you for watching wherever you watch, especially the live people. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Super appreciate you guys. Tomorrow I'll be on for What's Going On Wednesday to show you more of what's going on in the world. But have a good rest of your nights. Like, subscribe, hit notifications. Share this with anybody you think needs to see it. Thank you.